Well, hey, and welcome back to another episode of Outbreak News Across the Globe, a weekly video I'm trying to make here at Outbreak News TV. And I apologize, of course, for last weekend because I wasn't able to do one. I was on assignment at the Amoeba Summit, if you haven't noticed, if you've been following the YouTube page. Well, let's go ahead and just get started. And of course, we start in Africa. And in Nigeria, they are working on an outbreak of yellow fever. And according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, they are responding to the outbreak of yellow fever in people who are either residents or have visited the Alkalari local government area in Bauchi since the beginning of August. And they've found cases with an epidemiological link to Bauchi and other states in Nigeria, including Borno, Kano, Gombe, and Katsina. So these are the latest numbers that we have from this outbreak. 243 suspected cases, 28 confirmed cases by real-time PCR, 34 fatalities, 5 states affected, and 42 local government units affected. So the outbreak continues to grow in Nigeria, in the Bauchi area. Let's swing over to Asia, and really one of the bigger news stories of the past week was polio was found in the Philippines for the first time in 19 years. The Philippines Department of Health announced an outbreak of polio in the country. A poliovirus case was confirmed on September 16th in a 3-year-old girl from Lanao del Sur. Previously, we reported on the website outbreaknewstoday.com that there were positive environmental samples in Manila, and they did already start a vaccination campaign prior to this child coming up positive. We are very concerned that poliovirus is now circulating in Manila, Davao, Lanao del Sur, according to the representative from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization and UNICEF are working closely with the Department of Health to strengthen surveillance and swiftly respond to this outbreak. They're urging all parents of children under 5 to make sure they're vaccinated. It is deeply disconcerting that poliovirus has reemerged in the Philippines after nearly 2 decades. So this outbreak calls for urgent action, etc., etc. And the last known case of wild poliovirus in the Philippines was in 1993. The country was declared wild polio free in 2000. Now, the case of this little girl in Lanao del Sur was a vaccine-derived poliovirus, and that's a little bit different, but just as serious. Well, so they declare an outbreak in the Philippines on September 19th. What happens on September 20th? Local media reported that there was a second case in the Philippines and a 5-year-old boy from Laguna. The DOH said that it had confirmed that the boy was immunocompromised, meaning he had multiple pediatric complications due to a weak immune system. It was not clear whether the boy had been vaccinated or not. He experienced paralysis on August 25th, has since been discharged from the hospital and is able to walk, but is being closely monitored for residual symptoms. And the 3-year-old girl from Lanao del Sur was paralyzed as a result of the poliovirus infection. So that's what's going on in Asia. That's really some of the biggest news that's going on in that continent. Moving over to Australia and Oceania, I never thought I'd be using Guam as a top story, but it's very interesting that Guam, of course, is an island in the Pacific, and it is part of Oceania. And they've been seeing locally transmitted dengue fever. I say, okay, well, a lot of countries are seeing that. Yeah, true. However, Guam, the island of Guam, has not seen a locally transmitted dengue case in 75 years. until just a few weeks ago. So this is the latest from Guam officials. From the close of business Friday through Saturday morning, the Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services tested and confirmed 6 additional cases of dengue infection. 5 of the 6 are locally acquired cases, meaning these individuals had no recent travel history. 1 of the 6 cases is suspected to be imported, meaning it probably was acquired through travel outside of Guam. So to date, there are now 7 confirmed locally acquired dengue infections and 3 confirmed imported infections on Guam. So yeah, and that is really why I'm bringing it up in today's video, because it's been decades and decades and decades since the island has seen a locally transmitted case. And so the Guam officials have started an aggressive mosquito control effort, and they are anticipating the identification of other suspected and confirmed cases. We remind the community to assist with preventive measures at home and to protect themselves when they go outside. A community-wide response is needed in order to minimize the spread of the dengue virus. So the Guam health officials are getting support from the CDC, the World Health Organization, and others to try to nip this in the bud pretty quickly. So that's what's going on in Oceania, Guam, with dengue fever. In Europe, I decided to highlight the West Nile virus situation that's going on in Europe, and this is from the ECDC. And in the past week, they saw another 49 human cases. About half of them are from Greece, and another 7 fatalities, 6 of them from Greece. Since the beginning of the year, or the transmission season in Europe, through September 18th, there's been 342 human infections. EU member states reported 317 cases, and Greece accounted for 194, by far the most. 34 fatalities have been reported so far, and Greece, again, has reported the most with 25. And they're also seeing some outbreaks among horses, with cases in Greece, Germany, Italy, France, and others. Germany's also reported several dozen outbreaks among birds. During this transmission season, Slovakia reported its first ever locally transmitted West Nile virus case. So just to keep you apprised of what's going on with West Nile in Europe, the cases are growing. They're roughly at about the same amount as been seen in the United States so far this year. So moving on, let's go to North America, and I wanted to take a look at another mosquito-borne virus, and we're really seeing some high numbers for this pretty relatively rare infection in the U.S. So this is a report from CBS News: 7 dead from rare disease spread by mosquitoes. At least 7 people have died from Eastern Equine Encephalitis, a rare disease spread by mosquitoes. And at least 27 people have been infected in 6 states. The latest reports include deaths from Connecticut and Massachusetts. The state of Massachusetts now has 75 communities at critical or high risk for the rare but deadly disease known as triple E. So it's really increasing. We've seen like 10 cases in Massachusetts, like 8 in Michigan, then a few in Rhode Island and several other states. So clearly the 27 that's been reported to date is much higher than what we normally see, and I'll demonstrate that right now. These are the stats and the maps from the CDC. And if you weren't aware what triple E was, let me just tell you. Eastern Equine Encephalitis is transmitted to humans through the bite of an infected mosquito. Human cases occur relatively infrequently, largely because the primary transmission cycle takes place in and around swampy areas, where human populations tend to be limited. All residents of and visitors to areas where EEE activity have been identified are at risk of infection. People who engage in outdoor work and recreational activities in endemic areas are at increased risk of infection. And it goes on and on. In the United States, an average of 7 human cases of EEE are reported annually. Okay, and the bulk of these cases over the past 10 years have been seen in either Florida, Massachusetts, New York, and North Carolina. EEE transmission is most common in and around freshwater hardwood swamps in the Atlantic and Gulf Coast states and the Great Lakes region. So if we see here, this is from 2009 to 2018, the highest number of cases reported in any year, human cases, is 15 in 2012. So last year there were 6. So far this year, 27, including quite a few deaths, 7 or 8 deaths. So it's been an unusual heavy season for Eastern Equine Encephalitis. And there's the map, and you can see that Florida is typically the hardest hit. Okay, and let me go ahead and move on to our last continent. Of course, that's South America, and got a relatively new epi update from the Pan American Health Organization on dengue. And dengue is just going bonkers down in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean this year. And so far, through the end of August, Epi Week 35, which I believe ends August 31st, there's been about 2.4 million cases of dengue fever, including 949 fatalities. And I wanted to, the 4 dengue serotypes, dengue 1, 2, 3, and 4, are present in the Americas, and co-circulation of all 4 have been detected in Brazil, Guatemala, and Mexico this year. And several other countries have been seeing 3 strains circulating, co-circulating. The 5 countries in the Americas with the highest incidence rates, 4 of them are right in Central America themselves. That includes Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And of course, the 5th country with the highest incidence is Brazil. So, and let me just go over what Brazil's numbers are so far. Brazil has seen a total of almost 1.5 million cases so far this year. 1.5 million cases so far. And there's been almost 600 fatalities in Brazil alone. So a lot of dengue in the Americas, particularly South and Central America. The number of cases reported in 2019 as of August 31st, about 2.4 million cases, is higher than the annual totals reported in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And by the end of the year, will likely exceed the total reported in the epidemic year of 2015, where there was a little bit more than 2.5 million. So a lot of dengue in the Americas. And that's the latest continent by continent big outbreak stories that are going on. Of course, we exclude Antarctica. And hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time.